pipeline. No.
What's happening, people? Welcome. How are you? Good afternoon, good evening, good day, good week, Merry Christmas. How are you? It's Tuesday, and yet again, we have too much to cover. There's simply too much to cover. I don't have time for it all. I need some sort of like media crowbar. It's hard to even figure out how I'm gonna just have to stream 24/7 for about a year just to catch up with all the ridiculousness. It's absurd. Yeah, CSL knows better than anyone. It's just drinking from the media fire hose all the time. There is no way around it. There's simply and the funny thing is that I'm expanding on the outlets. We're now on Rumble and other places like that, which is ridiculous, but whatever. Honest to God, I'm only on Rumble just to irritate certain people. That's it. This is my first attempt. Now, I recognize. Okay. I know I'm a terrible troll because I put my face and my name next to what I say. Right. It's completely against the troll code, I think. But we got tons to do. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show in any way that you can. Patreon.com/HalSparks. Subscribe on YouTube, infotainmentwars.com. And of course, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe on Twitch and it doesn't cost you a dime. Fantastic. And from, let's see, and then, where do we even start? The first thing I want to start with is saying hi to everybody. Hi, everybody. Look at all those tabs that I have open. That's just embarrassing. That's just the number of clips I have to cover today. It's just crazy. Yes, happy Hanukkah as well. I have not heard back from the pillow people yet, but I have sent an email. Oh, yes, I have. Hope springs eternal. Sign up under Scraps Law. Oh, yes. So, by the way, there has been two more Twitter chapters just today. One I totally teabagged this morning, if you saw any of that, which was about the Schenenberger MD or whatever, the third tier dude that they have working on this, who's almost entirely, like, his job is entirely to just sort of regurgitate the New York Post story credulously and just repeat it verbatim. And say, it's a fact. Why? Because I read it there. Well, it wasn't true there either. Yeah, but that doesn't matter because I read it and then I'm repeating it. Once something is written and then it's repeated, it becomes true. Don't you know? That's how it works. That's how things work. Now, speaking of someone who repeats things and then tries to make them true. Oh, wrong person. This guy doing his best impersonation of an outraged yellow highlighter. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you. And you can take him. Rusty Trombone himself, Russell Brand. We haven't seen him in a little bit. And not because he hasn't been cranking stuff out. It's just so repetitive that it became boring. But this one's repetitive in its own special way. Apparently, according to him, the U.S. has I think we arranged for the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline so that we could get paid to rebuild it? Which isn't that like one of the old like Republican slams against communism, that their entire economy is based on paying a guy to dig a hole and paying another guy to fill it in? Yeah. So anyways, so this one's, and of course they're all called "We Saw This Coming." Like all of his videos are like, "You were right. Your paranoid delusion has totally paid off." Almost all of his videos these days are named something along those lines. We knew it. You knew it. It was true the whole time. Da, 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 da. Excuse me. So, and I am feeling better, but I am sounding worse. No. So let's give it a shot. Welcome to the show. Settle in. I almost called it a sketch. This clip is 12 minutes long. I may bail out early if it's just repetitive garbage, but I'm curious about this argument. Let's see.
Oh, that was ages ago. What are you still going on about that for? It's not as if
Sorry. Hold on. By the way, I would like to remind everyone that according to Rusty Trombone, the Nord Stream pipeline explosion was supposed to trigger World War II and we were all going to die in a nuclear explosion. Just for the record.
Remember the Nord Stream pipeline? No, that was ages ago. What are you still going on about that for? It's not as if like now that America and the UK have done a deal to replace the deals that might have existed between Russia and European partners, and the whole reason it was blown up was to create the opportunity for these deals. Stop!
By the way, both of the pipelines and the business around them had stopped because of the war. The pipelines were dead in their use because of the actions of Russia. Which is, by the way, why Russia used a pig with explosives attached to it, not a living pig, a pipeline inspection gadget, dragging explosives into it and blew it up themselves because they didn't want to depressurize the gas that was in it back out their way and explode another factory inside Russia.
Stop thinking. You think too much. Just put on the normal news and shut up.
Also, notice how he turns this ridiculousness into somehow a Americans or the general public, I guess, swath of Western society. We're all sleepwalking through life. We're all just ignorant, and we just buy, without any question what the media sells us, and we just walk around like friggin' zombies because he thinks he stumbled on something.
Hello there, you 6 million awakening wonders. Thank you for joining me on this
They had to edit something, apparently, because he messed his mic up.
voyage to truth and freedom, and ultimately, I pray, glory and redemption.
What? All right, look, rock and roll mega church, Alex Jones, Jesus, knock it off. Get over yourself. You've moved from your living room podcast to a studio they recreated to look like your living room podcast. Grow up.
If you haven't turned on the notification
Yeah, don't let me track you. This part drives me nuts.
bell yet, turn it on
Right now, so I can send you emails and you can be notified whenever I'm on, and I can use the notification bell to sell things to you. But corporations.
now, because YouTube is part of the mainstream media and the algorithm
Oh my God, of course, everyone. It's you and me against the world, baby.
is ultimately against us. We have an amazing story.
The algorithm is ultimately against us. Us. The cult.
For you today, particularly if you have a memory that expands beyond the last couple of months and you haven't been bludgeoned into amnesia by a media that wants you dumb, idiot.
Jesus Christ. That's the thing. You've been bludgeoned. You're dumb, but it's not your fault.
Spellbound and hypnotized. The Nord Stream pipeline, which, was blown up mysteriously, and Jocko Willink said on this show, Navy SEALs could easily do it.
Jesus Christ. Navy SEALs could easily bench press you. None of them are under your chair. This is what happens when people who are materially incapable of anything start talking about people who are capable of a lot. Hold on a second. Yeah.
Guess what's happened? Since it's been blown up, the US has done a load of gas deals with European
Yeah, but we don't want to. We're not going to send LNG all the way to Europe on boats, stupid.
Nations. Wow, what an extraordinary coincidence. And why is it not being reported on anywhere in the mainstream media?
What are you talking? Oh, God. Why aren't U.S. deals with Europe being talked about at all? Hold on. Let's see. Hold on, I'm waiting for the price gap or the price cap storylines to get past those. Here you go. This is analysis. U.S. LNG exports to Europe on track to surpass Biden promise. This is from July. That's Reuters, by the way. You know, thank God for tiny little independent organizations like Reuters to do the stories no one else will do.
Media. They really cared about the Nord Stream pipeline when they said, oh, Putin, he probably did that himself. Putin's blown up that pipeline because he's crazy. He's got Parkinson's. He can't go 5 minutes with shitting down his own trouser leg. He probably shat that Nord Stream pipeline to death.
Okay, this is, by the way, this is his specific tool of like mocking a concept by just overtly getting scatological about those kind of things and kind of stacking a bunch of things, saying that you're ridiculous because you may have understood that the only person that seek to gain in this at all, as far as depressurizing a gas pipeline in the middle of international waters, was Vladimir Putin for material reasons. Geostrategically also using it by accusing other countries of doing it so that they could use it as a reason to attack Ukraine even more, which God knows why they think they'd even need more reasons, because their own news is telling them that they just need to wipe the Ukrainians off the face of the earth. But still, you know, it's nice to have that it's nice to be able to hit pocket that.
By mistake, that poor fucker. And yes, that does mean that in the future, the European nations will need to get their gas from somewhere else. And
yes, Qatar.
Yes, we have explicitly stated that we would prefer that European nations bought their gas from us. But that still doesn't exempt that
And by the way, no, we haven't.
bloody Putin from the blame. The US is set to double its gas exports to the UK under plans to clamp down on rising living costs by weaning Britain of Russian energy. Weaning? Wasn't that coming out of Putin's breast? He does have breasts, though. I'm afraid he has titmanitis, one of his diseases. Ooh.
See what I mean? It's just this kind of like low-res mockery at the concept. This is what you fill in when you don't actually have any information.
Now, according to British media reports, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is poised to make a gas deal announcement with the United States after the COP27 climate summit.
Just pause for a moment to draw attention to the fact that you can only find this news on the Indian internet.
The United
Yeah, the Indian internet. First of all, Weon's, I've cited them before. Hold on. UK to sign gas deal with US. Let's see. Now I'll obviously have to look for, you know, some sort of weird little indie organization. Yeah, like I don't know, little groups like CNN. UK tries to shore up energy supply with US deal. Britain has agreed a new energy partnership with the United States that aims to end its reliance on Russia and lower soaring energy costs. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced the partnership in a statement on Wednesday. He said the aim was to double the amount of liquefied natural gas the United States exports to Britain compared to the 2021 levels. This will both be good for the UK and European partners as we look to replenish gas storage next year. Under the UK-US Energy Security and Affordability Partnership, the two countries will work to reduce global dependence on Russian energy exports and step up collaboration on energy efficiency, nuclear power, and renewables. The initiative will be overseen by senior officials from both sides. Gee whiz. Am I to understand that elected representatives from two democratic countries are getting together to reach a mutually agreed to deal, essentially, on gas to lower energy prices for people in the UK and sell something that we have an excess of in the United States, rather than support the Russian war machine. Weird.
The United States has promised the whole of European Union of 15 billion cubic meters of LNG this spring, and UK hopes for about 10 billion cubic meters of the supply.
After all the things they said about this war, about how it was a humanitarian...
And by the way, the whole idea that he's like, I'm surprised he didn't just get shocked at how many, 10 billion cubits of something. Hold on one second.
War. After all the things that happened in Iraq, about how they said that was a humanitarian war, how there were weapons of mass destruction, and how we now know that it was part of a...
Hey, fucko. Tap the brakes, asshole. Iraq, by the way, or both the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, people in the United States, myself included, protested against those wars, stood up against them, didn't buy the mainstream media story about yellow cake or any of that fuckery for a long time. And that was an action where the United States, after 9/11, reacted because of who was in charge. And again, it matters who you fucking elect. This asshole thinks it doesn't, but it absolutely does, because if Al Gore had been president, our reaction to 9/11, if it happened at all, because he would have been reading his fucking daily briefs, would have actually been very different. But never mind that fact. But after the fact, when the president that I voted for this time, by the way, got us out of Afghanistan and is retracting us from all these kind of things, this fucker wants you to think that there's somehow a parallel between that and Russia attacking Ukraine in a situation, by the way, that the United States had nothing to do with. I know they wanted this story about like, oh, they were scaring them with NATO. Yeah, that bullshit. No. Russia did this of their own free will. They chose to attack them. They talk openly on their news about wiping Ukraine off the map. Gone. The people themselves must be either killed or tortured into renouncing their Ukrainian characteristics. I don't know, their genetic lines or whatever the fuck, and just going back to being good Russians and dying in a new Holodomor. That these are somehow parallel automatically. And the idea is that you go back to something that the United States has moved past, that we don't, as a group. And one of the things I will say, that post-Iraq war, specifically, one of the most bipartisan things that has come out of that experience is that left to right in the United States, almost everybody calls that a forever war and has no interest in the United States getting involved in it. And it actually has an impact on why we don't have troops in Ukraine to begin with. Never mind the fact that that would be a ratchet up and involve something that could trigger a NATO response and blah, blah, blah. But even beyond that, we're not putting troops there for that specific reason. Because of our collective awareness of the fact that Iraq and yellow cake and all that stuff was bullshit and, won't get fooled again.
A plan called the New American Century. After all of that,
Oh my God, he's going back to the PNAC, the things that we were all fucking screaming about, which, by the way, effectively stopped. That's right. The election of Barack Obama was the thing that drew the PNAC's plan for a 7-nation war to a close. Oops. I mean, frankly, Trump tried to jumpstart it again by deepening our involvement in our relationship with Russia in Syria, but it didn't work.
You would think that they would at least wait a minute before building a fucking pipeline to replace the one they blew up.
Okay, first of all, asshat, we're not building a pipeline from fucking New York to the UK. You have to boat this shit over. You have to have facilities on either side that liquefy the natural gas and deliquefy it, you fucking dipshit.
Allegedly.
This move would be considered as UK's step towards independence from Russia.
By the way, the reason Rusty Trombone thinks that the US and the UK are building a pipeline to replace Nord Stream, the reason he believes that is because there was a picture of a pipeline in the video thing that he's looking at, and he's certain it's got to be something the UK and the US have built in the last 2 months.
Russian-linked oil and gas imports amid Ukraine invasion.
That was always the intention, to just take over gas exports from Russia.
Brian's.
What was it now? So this is the purpose of us backing Ukraine. Russia attacks Ukraine, but the only reason we are acting like we give a shit, apparently, according to Rusty Trombone, is because we want to shift our sales of quite frankly, of natural gas in its gaseous form through pipelines into Central and South America, which is how you do it, to converting it into a liquefied form and fucking boating it across the sea. Also, by the way, if you'll notice, he'll point out how the volume of the U.S. exports is doubling or something from, I think, checks notes, dick 2 years ago to a number that sounds enormous but isn't.
Sullivan is live in Rotterdam as part of a week-long series he's doing on Europe's energy crisis.
We're going to talk about specifically liquefied natural gas and the U.S.'s role in, and again, I don't think the word saving Europe or the phrase saving Europe is too strong, Becky, because without U.S. imported natural gas, Europe would be in a far more dire situation.
Not only do they want to hide the true origins of this war,
Wait a minute. What do you mean the true origins of this war? What the fuck is that? Seriously. And keep in mind, remember, we were supposed to, the U.S. blew up the pipeline not so we could sell gas, but so that we could trigger a nuclear war and destroy the Earth. That's what this fucker's sales pitch was, 3 months ago.
not only do they want to allegedly destroy this pipeline and sell us gas that we were previously buying from a competitor, they want...
Oh, from a competitor, that's all. Oh, so are we going to invade Qatar and blow them up too, since they're a competitor? Maybe we're really only against Xinjiang cotton, not because it's slave labor, but because there's cotton growers in the United States, and we want to compete with them, on an unlevel playing field. So we don't want them to just, be able to use slave labor anymore.
To sort of be thanked for it and for the saviors. Well, I don't think it's too strong to say that we are...
Again, just this is kind of like flat mockery. None of it's funny. Because it's so on the nose and doesn't really amount to a fucking hill of beans.
For the new Jesus of gas provision, but instead of lasers, which I believe Jesus used to shoot from his hands, I think I'm right.
All right, again, see what I mean? The concept is mock ad absurdum, and therefore the concept must be ridiculous because it doesn't merit a quality joke.
Right, I think it says that in the Bible. We shoot liquid gas.
And this is coming from a guy who has a fart gun, by the way.
Into Europe, like Jesus gas milk. I don't think that's too much to say. Rishi Sunak.
Again, and by the way, something weird going on with Russell and Rishi Sunak. It could be that the dude's just super rich. I don't think so. Seems to be deeper than that.
WEF, Goldman Sachs, has pledged that the new partnership to boost energy security, efficiency and affordability will cut prices for Britons and ensure the UK's national supply can never again be manipulated by the whims of a failing regime.
Now, he thinks this is funny because he thinks the United States is a failing regime.
Have you seen Joe Biden lately?
Yeah, there you go. Why talk about policy when you can make an ageism joke? Have you seen Joe Biden? Yes, I have, actually. He's about to pass one of the I think the first budget without a continuing resolution in 7 years?
As part of efforts to drive down the cost of living, the US will aim to export at least 9 to 10 billion cubic metres of liquefied natural gas to UK terminals over the next year, more than doubling the level in 2021.
Now, God forbid you bring up how much liquefied natural gas or natural gas in general the UK uses, period. Should we look it up? Should we try and see? Let's see. How much natural gas UK uses a year? Okay. Gas consumption. Let's see. Gas worldometer. So by the way, here you go. Natural gas. They have an 868,000 cubic feet deficit. Say that again. How much was it? 9 to 10 billion cubic meters of liquefied natural gas. And so, cubic, I got to look up in cubic feet, or sorry, cubic meters. Meters. Oh, you're going to love this one. You're going to love it. You're just going to love it. Okay, got it. So the U.S. will aim to export at least 9 to 10 billion cubic meters of liquefied natural gas to the... Oh, my God. The enormity of such a... Oh, I'm sorry. What do we have? The UK consumes somewhere in the order of 80 to 85 billion cubic meters of gas every year. Hold on a second. Yes. Excuse me. Yeah. So, sorry, I left something in the room. Yeah, the U.S. is going to supply somewhere in the order of 8 to 10 billion cubic meters to the U.K. to make up for fuckery. And yes, and how much do they make themselves? What do you think? We back up and look at this shit again? Hold on one second. Let me jump back to here. There you go. They consume 2.5 billion cubic feet, and they produce 1.6 billion cubic feet. So they have a deficit of 886 million cubic feet. And so to make up for that yearly deficit, they need to get it from somewhere else. And better a partner that isn't currently jailing people simply for protesting. Yeah, you got to do a lot of shit. Most of the people who violently attacked cops on January 6th went home. They don't even have fucking ankle bracelets. Meanwhile, ask this jerk how Alexei Navalny is doing.
Firstly, it's not appearing significantly in mainstream media. That already tells you a lot.
That's because it's not a significant amount. And also, this also for the record, natural gas prices and natural gas deals don't show up significantly in mainstream media because it's boring. Because it's not a scandal. It's so not a scandal.
No one is making the connection to the Nord Stream pipeline.
Because there isn't one. They already said it's to replace Russian gas. But the reason they're doing it is because Russia's run by violent assholes.
You're entering a phase of amnesia where you just have to...
Oh, okay. I see. We've all just forgotten. What have we forgotten? Fill in the gaps.
Forget what you saw like a month ago.
What did we see a month ago? You telling us that the U.S., the Navy SEALs must have blown it up? Because they could? Did they? No. Could they? Sure. Well, if somebody can, certainly they would. Look at Russell's sexual history.
Like, oh, sorry about that during the pandemic. We were wrong about that. Sorry, wrong about what? Hey, this war, don't ever say anything that Putin, Russia, that's all the only thing to consider is Putin is an aggressor. Don't think about anything else, otherwise you're being disrespectful to Ukrainian people who are suffering. Oh, right, okay. Hey, right, that pipe...
by the way, and push back, asshole. If that's the argument, if that's what people are saying, you can't push back on anything but that Putin is an aggressor. That's the only acceptable conversation to have, and that, you know, because it's being disrespectful to the Ukrainians. Explain how it isn't. It wouldn't take a second. Give us a full sentence. Tell us how they had it coming, Russell. Tell us how the Wagner Group rape squads are a necessity. Tell us how the mass graves were a product of something that, you know, Ukraine poked the bear by thinking that eventually they might need NATO support to keep Russia out. And even talking about it 12 years ago would lead to Russia building up and building up and building up until they attack like it's a fucking game of Risk. Explain it. If that's your criticism, that the mainstream media will only let you look at it from the point of view that Vladimir Putin is a monster, explain how he isn't, and explain how the Ukrainians deserve it. You fucking coward.
Pipeline. Hey, what happened to that pipeline? Shut up! Don't ask about that. It's just like you're being continually bewildered, bombarded by...
Also, by the way, we're supposed to forget about the pipeline because it's supposed to keep us up at night because it was going to trigger World War III. It didn't. Did it? No.
Information. And then they have the gall to talk about misinformation and disinformation when they are the epicenter of this phenomenon.
Look at this dude. They started all this. Now, back to my whole assertion that the Russians didn't do this, and Vladimir Putin is an innocent victim of all this, and the UK and the US have just been plotting to use Ukraine as a battle zone simply to sign an LNG deal that they could sign anyways.
Rishi Sunak said the partnership will help end Europe's dependence on Russian energy once and for all. How can you sell this as this is a benefit? How can you sell this as anything other than advantageous to the corporate interests that were always set to benefit and whose agenda...
I'll tell you why. Because there are a lot of liquid natural gas and natural gas companies in the entire world. Lots of them. There's South American ones. There's Middle Eastern ones. There's Southeast Asian ones, and there's the North American continent. Like there's several you could get them from. And if at some point any of these groups start fucking with you the way that Russia started fucking with Ukraine or trying to manhandle your economy, you could get out of that deal too. You would leave. You would go, I would rather not buy my oil and gas from people who are currently bragging openly on their television, on their state run, by the way. Not, oh my God, the CIA runs CNN bullshit. Actively paid for in the budget, openly. The propaganda arm of the Russian military and the fucking government, as if there's a difference, are openly bragging about the fact that they want a genocide of the entire Ukrainian people, and they want to bomb Warsaw and Berlin, and it's about time we nuke all these, and London, where this fucker lives.
And there was likely pursued from the outset. The very fact that...
Likely pursued from the outset. Okay. Hi, dummy. Solutions were actually, of course they were pursued from the outset. Because the only other option is continuing to fund Putin's war machine.
There's any energy deals being done at this time at all should tell you that there's more to this war than the mainstream media.
No, it isn't. Everybody knows that Europe was getting an outsized amount of their oil and gas from Russia, and it was a bad idea for a long time. The fact that if there weren't energy deals going on, you'd think the fix was in.
You're reporting. Let me know what you think in the chat.
Yeah, because, he stole this graphic idea from Stephen Crowder.
Let me know what you think in the comments. Citing the war in Ukraine, Mr. Sunak and Mr. Biden said in a joint statement that it is more important than ever for allies to work together to build resilient international systems.
Which is, of course, ridiculous, which is why Rusty Trombone is announcing at the end of this video that he is moving to St. Petersburg.
Who for?
Not Florida. Russia.
Not for you. You're going to be paying for the energy. You're going to be paying over the odds for food. You're not going to be
Wait a minute.
Not for you. You're going to be paying for the energy. You're going to be paying over the odds for food. You're not.
I don't know what over the is that English slang, over the odds, like you're going to be paying more for food than you have to. And by the way, again, let's look at the ultimate argument that Rusty Trombone is making here. What is the root of his argument? It is that, sure, there are Wagner Group rape squads, mass graves, Russia invaded Ukraine. But, I mean, if we just let it slide, you know, chicken would be cheaper. That's the argument. I mean, this guy would have been a great member of the Greatest Generation, don't you think? I mean, if we get involved in this whole Poland, Auschwitz-y thing, it's going to drive the price of grain up, innit?
Not going to be participating in the profits. Are energy companies profiting now? Yes or no? You tell me. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. If they're profiting, that means that the scarcity is not the issue. It means the extraction of profit is the issue. President Joe...
By the way, they're all going to make profits. The Russians would make profits, by the way. Hand over fist. These are money-making endeavors. The question is, where do those profits go? Do they go to investors? Do they go to people who own stock in it? Do they go into the communities around them? Do they go in research and development? Or do they pay Prigozhin to roll fresh conscripts in from Russia like Pez dispensers full of corpses, just flicking dead Russians out in front of a place to try and claim Bakhmut?
Joe Biden promised a White House press conference in early February that the US was able to shut down the German-Russian Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline in the Baltic.
By the way, he's also, if you'll notice, jumping around from articles. He does this all the time without referencing them. The graphic changes, and he hopes you just don't give a shit.
Sea if Russia invaded Ukraine. But why take my word for it? Here he is doing it.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
Oh, you think because Joe Biden...
By the way, multiple times we have seen Rusty Trombone here mention that, like, when Trump says something that's kind of overtly macho like that, he's like, well, you got to give him credit. He's definitely, like, his bravado is amazing. You got to say, he's got a grip on everything. But Biden goes, we'll be able to do it. That means he was going to blow it up. Not that we can put pressure on the Germans and the rest of Europe is going to back us. But since we're trying to build an alliance right now, just in case these assholes do it, I'd rather not say. But to this dickhead, it means they're going to just, we'll have World War III.
Biden on the television said that they would.
Yes, if you'll notice, he says things out loud comfortably.
Would blow up the Nord Stream pipe.
No. Nope. Notice the jump.
Joe Biden on the television said that they would blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. Then it did blow up, and then they did do a bunch of energy. You thought that meant that the whole thing...
And again, quality programming, ladies and gentlemen.
Perhaps the war itself...
This man lives under a monarchy.
...was about war and profitability for powerful American corporate interests rather than the humanitarian effort to aid Ukrainian people. Oh, we set up that pipeline, then blew it up, then did those deals as a surprise for your birthday. This is exactly what happened when we tried this in Iraq. We pulled that statue down to cheer you up. When Russia...
Right, see that? See the bait?
Indeed invaded Ukraine on February 24th, Washington was able to get...
Oh, why is that funny? When Russia indeed invaded Ukraine on February 24th, that's funny. Because I'm sure that's somehow he's laughing because that's America's fault. We made him do it. So that we could blow up the pipeline, which we didn't need to do.
Get Berlin to suspend the pipeline project that was about to go online, even though it wasn't in Germany's interest.
Oh, yeah?
Pipeline has remained closed ever since.
Yes. a closed pipeline was blown up. And Germany, by the way, before it was blown up, said we're not going to be using it going forward, period, anyways.
And then was blown up by Putin. But ending the war and lifting the sanctions would lead to the reopening of Nord Stream 2.
Says who?
Prior to the Nord Stream explosion, President Vladimir Putin told a press conference that Russia was ready to resume supplying natural gas to Germany if Germany lifted its economic sanctions against Russia.
Yes, if you refuse to charge us for war crimes, we'll sell you cheap gas. I don't know why anyone morally wouldn't jump at that chance.
Putin said, after all, if they need gas urgently, if things are so bad, just go ahead and lift sanctions against Nord Stream 2 with its 55 billion cubic meters per year. All they have to do is press the button and it will get going.
Yes? Hello? I thought somebody was knocking on the door.
This deal would mean Nord Stream 2 would reopen, which would help Germany and Russia, but crush US aims at regime change and making Europe dependent on
Look at this. Would crush US aims at regime change and making Europe dependent on US energy. Okay, first of all, Europe's not dependent on US energy. And as a matter of fact, because they're moving towards renewables over the next decade, the need for that 10 billion cubic meters of gas will evaporate as part of the market. It's gonna go away. Now, there will always be a use for that gas because the United States can use it for industrial purposes. They can sell it to South America. They can sell it to Canada. That's not a problem. But at the same time, they can participate in removing one of the worst actors on the world stage from acts of absolute violence, imperialism, and colonialism from the earth. Simply, at least, take away their petty cash.
US energy. Don't you think that that is at least part of this?
No. The United States economy is $26 trillion a year. 26. Do you think LNG payments for what? 3 companies every year that amount to 4% of Northern Europe's usage is a reason for us to just go, oh yeah, fucking let's start a hot war with a nuclear power in the middle of Europe. Are you fucking nuts? This is what happens when someone has lived an entire life free of any physical altercations. This is what happens when your whole life is a cartoon. When you have lived this padded bullshit life where every act of violence you have ever seen in life has been on the other side of a fucking video screen. Where you have never encountered the need for physical strength in your life because you don't have to do any manual labor. You never have. Anybody who did do it in your family, you look at them like it was a fucking story they told you instead of what actually happened. You actually, my dad's an architect. Hardly, I would say, a manual labor, although he works on guitars by hand and it's a specific like eye-hand coordination and quality thing, and it takes hours to do. But it's something he does because he loves it, okay? Love what you do and it won't work a day in your life, that kind of idea. But when my dad started out as an architect, working for a big company, drafting buildings and doing all this other stuff, there was no CAD at that point. So all of his blueprinting had to be done by hand. And I used to, after my dad would come home from work, rub my dad's shoulder and arm because it was literally near frozen from spending all day drafting these ginormous projects and having to do, before they had these large scale printers in offices where you could print the blueprints, making multiple fucking copies of these things. Keep in mind, my dad also, like I said, used to do, he would like rehab classic buildings in Kentucky where I grew up. And I've told you guys a couple of times that one of the buildings that he worked on required square nails because they were building the building back using the original like wood and how they treated it and tried to get it as close to the original building as possible. So my dad and I sat in the backyard at my house in front of a fire with a giant pot full of lead pouring and steel and pouring square nails, literally a hashed out thing with square nails in it, pouring this molten metal into it and sealing it and then dropping them into a bucket and making more. And we made Hundreds of those fucking things. And my dad would have like these burns on the side of his hand just from picking up the pot and doing it over and over and over again. For fuck's sake. This, like, the damage that happens to people in real life, just in their normal interactions, the closest this asshole has ever gotten to that was catching his like $900 jacket in his fucking car door.
Going on here. Do you really believe that at the core of this issue is the tyranny of Putin? And
Yes. Yeah. I do. And not, by the way, because I blindly am an amnesiac who fucking follows whatever the shit people tell me. It's because the fucking Russian accounts on Telegram are fucking bragging about it. These are they. Proud of hitting these civilian targets. Proud of it. Dude, look, remember how horrified a lot of us were when you'd hear people on social media back in the day around the Iraq War, or just people calling in to stations saying we need to, nuke Iraq back to the Stone Age, or we need to turn the Middle East to glass. Remember that shit? And let me know in the chat. Give it a comment below if you remember people saying shit like that during the Iraq War, the beginning of the Iraq War. Remember that? Post 9/11? Fucking remember that? You guys, let me know in the chat. Guys, remember that? Like, we saw those quotes constantly. You know what the difference was? As much as we look at, the kind of shit talk like that Tucker Carlson and those assholes say these days, no, we didn't see Dan Rather or fucking Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or even, by the way, Fox and Friends going on and saying, we need to nuke the Middle East, all of it, back to the Stone Age. Turn all the sand to glass. Yeah, Peter Jennings, none of that shit. Like, we were pissed that people credulously carried the story of the yellow cake thing. But even then, yeah, bomb Iran, like the joke that came out of McCain. The general feeling was, when he did that shit, was outrage. It was one of the reasons why he lost against Barack Obama. John McCain, one of the reasons he lost the presidency, never became president, beside the fact that he picked or allowed to have picked for him Sarah Palin, which was a fucking embarrassment, was the fact that he did that bomb Iran thing. And he joked wantonly about the massive destruction of Iran for, just flat out, just nuke the shit, right? Let me explain something to you. Right now, on Russian state television, and on every channel that's allowed to air in Russia, they're saying that about Ukraine, the United States, Berlin, and London, where this asshole lives. Like, they're not even, he was, McCain, when he did it, it was kind of like this half-assed joke. He kind of did it, at any rate. Remember that? Remember he was like, bomb, at any rate. He just kind of threw it away. It was like an inside Senate joke amongst Republicans that got out, and he was like, oh, fuck. And he couldn't put it back in the toothpaste tube. Putin clears everything on Russian state TV. Solovyev's show, Simonyan, what's her name? The woman he just gave an award of honor to, the woman who's suggesting that we need to nuke Berlin because they won't buy gas. Look, this is about, you talk about fucking deals between countries to buy and sell shit. If the United States is like, hey, you might want to buy gas from us, you could probably get it from Qatar, but we'll cut you a nice deal, and our companies will, we'll subsidize it with, taxpayer money, but we'll get it moving in there, and it'll be good for us and good for you, whatever. Meanwhile, the Russian deal is, if you stop buying our gas, we basically should just nuke you. Now, that isn't covered in the mainstream media. Like, Julia Davis will cover stuff. It'll show up on Twitter. The Daily Beast will occasionally carry an article from Julia Davis about this, but it's not on the front page or on CNN 24/7, even though the equivalent of Laura Ingraham on Russian state television has said we need to nuke Germany for not buying our gas. And that's not, you're not seeing that all over the place. Why is the mainstream media hiding this? Oh, fuck you.
And helping Ukrainian people. Helping Ukrainian people is the right thing to do.
Oh, yeah? Define the help then. Maybe, what we need though, but helping them sometimes might just, let the rape happen. Maybe a child could be born of it. It's maybe the Texas legal folks who think that there shouldn't be an exception in the case of rape and incest and maybe they're right about this. Maybe we're helping the Ukrainians. Maybe we're raising their birth rate. Now, they kill the women afterwards, so probably not.
If indeed Putin is a tyrant, I imagine that he is.
You imagine? Do you? I didn't even know you had an imagination. This all just seems like mechanical decisions to make money off of clickbait and horror.
Then of course that is a bad thing. But
of course, if he's a tyrant, that's of course a bad thing. But look at this sales of gas between two countries. Really, this is the false equivalency by Russell D. Brand. This is it. This is what he's thinking. Like, there's this, and they're both the same. One guy is paying mercenaries and convicts to murder civilians and is spending most of his munitions on civilian infrastructure in Ukraine with the stated goal of eliminating them from the earth and seizing their land. And the other is, there might be a profit between gas companies. Yeah. Talk about the lesser of two evils. Jesus.
Do you not think that these pieces of information, him saying that...
No, I don't.
The pipeline, do you think that this is all irrelevant? Do you think...
Yes. I think it is ancillary to the circumstance at hand. Let me show you something. All right. After most Americans, if you're going to have a heart attack, you're going to have it Monday morning before 9 a.m. Just letting you know. And that's when most of them happen. Doesn't mean statistically that's when the majority of them happen. It's when that's the time of the week when the most happen at once. It's not when the majority happen. But you can read the statistic in either direction and freak yourself out. After a story about heart attacks, for example, or cardiovascular disease in the United States, there are several things that happen. The sales of defibrillators go up. The sales of statins go up. And people start exercising and eating a little better. But it's hardly big organic kale is manipulating the situation just to cause a bunch of heart attacks so they can sell kale fucking smoothies. Don't you think that's part of it? I mean, big kale is always making money off of the number one killer of Americans. And I'm not saying that heart attacks are good. I'm just saying that, you see what I mean?
I think that all of these economic interests being advantaged, whether it's the military-industrial complex or energy companies, is a sort of an inadvertent consequence of this.
Yeah, I guess you should talk to Putin. He's encouraging all the wrong people by just attacking. If he hadn't done this, all these awful oil and gas companies wouldn't be selling oil and gas to different customers.
Conflict. Oh wow, God, we were just doing the right thing, helping Ukrainian people, and look, all this stuff happened. Who do you think it is running this war? Willy Wonka? For
All right, I don't even know what the fuck that's supposed to mean.
decades, the US opposed European projects to receive energy from Russia.
Yeah, gee, I wonder why. Could it be the enormous kleptocracy and the fact that a guy who makes $146,000 US, according to what his wages are as president, has amassed the largest fortune of any single person? By the way, bigger than Elon Musk's now, I might add, at $200 billion net worth, has a $25 million house in Sochi alone, multi-million dollar yachts and vacation homes and all this stuff, $146,000 a year. Also, killed people not far from Russell's house. Yeah, openly admitted it. Had him murdered right on the street. Proud of it. Same thing in, what was the name of that other country that they were just concerned about? Germany.
It wants Europe to buy more expensive US oil and gas.
Why is it more expensive? Oh, because there are more environmental regulations, because we take better care of the space that we use, whereas in Russia, they don't give a shit. Super cheap.
Here's Condoleezza Rice speaking in 2014.
I also understand that one of the complications is the Europeans, who are very dependent on the Russians for...
By the way, anybody remember what had happened in 2014? Anybody remember what the Russians did in 2014? Does this ring any bells?
Energy supply and business relationships. Now we need to have tougher sanctions, and I'm afraid at some point this is going to probably have to involve oil and gas. The Russian economy is vulnerable. 80% of Russian exports are in oil, gas, and minerals. Over the long run, you simply want to change the structure of energy dependence.
You want to change that structure by blowing it up.
You want...
Again, what? Keep in mind, what is Russia? What is Russia? Look, what is Russell? I'll just call him that from now on. What is Russell arguing? Russell arguing here? What's he arguing here? Russia is an innocent victim. That they simply had their business model blown up.
To depend more on the North American energy platform, the tremendous bounty.
By the way, notice she said North American, not American. So that includes Canada and to some degree Mexican natural gas.
Of oil and gas that we're finding in North America. You want to have pipelines that don't go through Ukraine and Russia.
But there is a pipeline going through Ukraine and Russia. Not anymore, there isn't.
For years.
Yeah, there is.
We've tried to get the Europeans.
By the way, does this asshole think the Nord Stream pipeline went through Ukraine? So does it... How does this work? Does his producer provide him with what he can read, and he's not supposed to read any further because it'll fuck his narrative into a cocked hat? Is that how it works?
To be interested in different pipeline routes. It's time to do that. And so some of this is simply acting.
By the way, which is also Northern European routes as well. Yeah. Those horrible countries like Sweden and Norway. You know, countries that American left-leaning politicians and voters really have learned to hate over time for their social safety nets, which are largely, by the way, based on the revenue from oil and gas. They've just better managed them than, say, Venezuela has.
Acting in a war kind of thing? Oh, God.
Yeah, that's what we did. Yeah. In 2014, we made Russia seize Crimea as a predicate so that they could think it would be okay to destroy everyone in Ukraine. Like, this argument is so fucking petty.
No, wait, is that what you thought? Is that what it sounded like? A 2019 Pentagon-funded study from the RAND Corporation on how best to exploit Russia's economic, political, and military vulnerabilities and anxieties, which is a nasty thing to have done anyway, included a recommendation.
Is it?
To reduce Russian...
Considering they literally attacked Georgia and have, during the preceding decade, and have been moving the barrier, the border of where they had seized territory by, like, yards every couple of months, pushing farmers and other people out of the way with men with guns, just slowly but creeping until they crossed the pipeline that was going from the straight across into, I believe, Hungary through Georgia so that they could claim transit fees. And if they wanted to, shut it off. Increasing the anxiety of Southern Europeans.
natural gas exports and hinder pipeline expansions. The study noted that a first step would involve stopping Nord Stream 2 and that natural gas from the United States and Australia could provide...
The Australians, that's it. Now I get it. They're the people behind the whole thing. It's just an Australian plot.
...a substitute. This RAND study also prophetically recommended providing more US military equipment and advice to Ukraine in order to lead Russia to increase its direct involvement in the conflict and the price it pays for it, even though it acknowledged that Russia might respond by mounting a new offensive and seizing more Ukrainian territory. Now, I don't know who participated in this RAND report in 2019.
Yeah, why even look it up? And sorry.
But isn't this...
Hold on. RAND 2019 study, Russian oil, gas, Ukraine, I guess. April 24th, 2019. You can download the whole thing right there. There's a PDF file. Come on. But by the way, James Dobbins, Raphael Cohen, Nathan Chandler, Brian Frederick, Edward Geist, Paul DeLuca, Forrest Morgan, Howard J. Schatz, and Brent Williams. That's who participated in this report. It took me a second and a half. Again, I submit to you that literally Russell's producer knows he can just corral Russell's ignorance simply by finding these documents for him and then highlighting the part he's supposed to read and telling him read no further. We encourage you to explore this research brief and the full report as it is that it is based on. However, because Russia's state media and titles and individuals sympathetic to Putin's decision to invade Ukraine have mischaracterized this research in recent weeks. Oh, look at that. People sympathetic to Putin's decision to invade Ukraine have mischaracterized this research in recent weeks. We also encourage you to explore this helpful resource on Russia's firehouse of falsehood approach to propaganda and our research on truth decay. Oh, Russell, do you feel seen, fucker? Which is a phenomenon that is driven in part by the spreading of disinformation. The maxim that Russia is never so strong nor so weak as it appears remains as true as the current century as it was in the 19th and 20th. This was drafted, let's see, availability web only, document number, blah, blah, blah. Let me see. I'm going to drag this over here real quick, if I may. I don't know what, by the way, say that again, fuckhead.
Territory. Now, I don't know who participated in this RAND report in 2019, but is it...
You don't. You don't, do you? So you didn't even look at the summary. This brief summarizes a report that comprehensively examines nonviolent, cost-imposing options that the United States and its allies could pursue across economic, political, and military areas to stress overextend and unbalance Russia's economy and armed forces and the regime's political standing at home and abroad. Some of the options examined are clearly more promising than others, but any would need to be evaluated in terms of the overall U.S. strategy for dealing with Russia, which neither the report nor this brief has attempted to do. Also, written in 2019 after Russia seized Crimea. 5 years later and going, are they going to stop there? Apparently not.
Isn't this just like exactly what's happened? The Obama administration opposed the pipeline. As part of the major sanctions package against Russia in 2017, the Trump administration began sanctioning any company doing work on the pipeline. The move generated outrage in Germany, where many saw it as an attempt to meddle with European markets. In 2019, the US implemented more sanctions on the project. Upon coming into office...
By the way, who was president during that period? Because Russell's a big Trump fan. He believes it's strength. Joe Biden's, weak and feckless. If he does the same thing that Obama did or even Trump did, it's just because it's an accident.
Office President Joe Biden made opposition to the pipeline one of his administration's top priorities. Oh, on the news it was all about helping people and making Saudi Arabia a pariah. Well, at least that's one promise he has delivered on. Well done, Joe. During his
as old guy jokes.
Confirmation hearings in 2021, Secretary of State Antony Blinken told Congress he was determined to do whatever I can to prevent Nord Stream 2 being completed. Months later,
Yeah, Secretary of State.
the State Department reiterated that any entity involved in the Nord Stream 2 pipeline risks US sanctions and should immediately abandon work on the pipeline.
Yeah, why would they bother to do that? Why wouldn't they just let American companies make all the money they can since they're just going to blow it up later? Why even bother? Why, if it's all about profits for American companies, why didn't they just let them do the work? Just go, hey, by the way, you should set your insurance to expire around this date because we're going to blow it up. Why would they stop anyone from doing any of the work if they're getting paid for it if they're just going to destroy it? Who gives a shit? Talk about digging a hole and paying somebody to fill it in.
As Russia was gathering troops at Ukraine's border at the beginning of this year, US
What? I'm sorry, what were they doing? Huh. Why were they doing that, Russell?
administration officials issued threats against the pipeline's operation in the event of a Russian invasion.
Right. And the Germans went, yeah, we're gonna move away from it as well if they do that. And they ultimately did. Before it was blown up.
In January, Under Secretary of State Victoria Nuland, one of the main players during the 2014 Maidan coup in Ukraine.
Okay, Maidan coup, the Euromaidan coup specifically, and it wasn't a coup. This is the storyline we hear from Caitlin Johnson. This is the storyline we hear from Jimmy Dore all the time. Aaron Mate sells this idea that the coup, the United States destabilized and put Nazis in charge. That's why they have a Jewish president now that they elected after completely fair elections for the last 2 cycles. And we got rid of, Yanukovych, the guy who was working with Paul fucking Manafort.
Ukraine issued a stern warning against the pipeline. If Russia invades one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
Right. They're not afraid to sanction Germany is the point. That's what it was about. By the way, will not move forward is very different than will get bombed.
So, there you are. A simple,
There you are. It's just a story I made up in my fucking head.
uncomplicated narrative that doesn't involve sabotage, espionage, long-term energy goals, and potentially a war that's being used to advance economic interests rather than humanitarian ones. We know how our governments behave, right? And we know how...
No, we don't. And if we have any question about it, we're not going to fucking you for this nonsense.
our media behaves. Our
Get more bots. By the way, is there a rifle pointed at you during this? What the fuck is that?
government would never do that. And if they...
Is a shotgun mic? Nice quality. It's good. Maybe hang it next time. Point it at your. Maybe he keeps turning his head away from it when he goes to read, and they had to put it on desk level.
Surely our media will report on it, right? So there's absolutely...
Well, surely our media would report on what the Wagner Group is doing. No? You don't care?
nothing to worry about in spite of this overwhelming, academically underwritten evidence and even people involved in the conflict directly saying they would do what eventually happened. So,
No, they didn't. Let's just... this is almost done, thank God. But can we just clarify one thing? Nowhere in this do people talking about economic sanctions, even against an ally, in the case of Germany, shutting down this pipeline, or sanctioning the oil and gas sales to Europe if you want to do deals with the United States, with the European countries that aren't on board who don't give a shit that Russia is murdering people hand over fist in 3 countries at once. Don't even bother. I would love to sit there while this asshole looks at the stories coming out of Somalia about the Wagner Group. And I don't mean from the American press. I would insist that he only look at reports from locals to see what the Wagner Group did in Somalia to pregnant women. I'd love to sit here and have that fucker read that out loud to me. But never mind the fact that you've got, Victoria Nuland and the president and Blinken saying, yeah, that pipeline's got to go. Being an admission that they would blow it up. When Russia would, by the way, just go, all right, we can probably trigger these assholes to come to our defense if we just blow it up ourselves, and it's never going to work again because Germany has already said they're not going to use it. It is a dead pipeline. It is useless, and it is full of gas. And the only way to get the gas out of it, and so that it's not just a giant stick of dynamite attached to our St. Petersburg facility, is to vent it in the middle of the ocean. What an asshole.
So, nothing to worry about. If you enjoyed this video...
I did not. I did not enjoy this video. I enjoyed my commentary on it because few people have the patience to go through one of Russell's videos all the way through as he presents them and knock this shit down as it comes up. This is one of the most pathetic takes on any of this stuff you will ever see. Russell Brand has one of the most intellectually lazy and morally corrupt views of this circumstance I have ever seen. And the only thing that makes it worth talking about sometimes is the fact that he labors under the illusion, or wants his viewers to labor under the illusion, I guess more aptly, that he actually is coming from some sort of position of goodness or philosophical purity or honesty, for fuck's sake. When nothing could be further from the truth. Every video that I see Russell do, and I've seen more of them than we do on this channel because I keep tabs on these assholes. Every video he puts up is it is Jim Jones level manipulation of a fucking sponge-headed crowd that laps it up. In theory, I don't even know that that's true. His viewers may largely be bots at this point. And the idea is just float this shit and buoy it up. And so, it's not like he's making a fucking distinction. You think this asshole goes through and looks at his analytics and where they come from and says, oh, good, I'm reaching the right people. Of course not. But hey, what the fuck do I know? He's got 6 million followers and I've only got about 45,000. That would make him, by the way, on the ladder of mainstream versus independent, I'm well on more independent than he is at this point, and nobody's telling me what to say, and I'm not editing any of my shit. That's for goddamn sure. When I do these clips of him, as long as they may, it may take me sometimes because there's so many lies in them, I'm not having a fucking editor chopping shit out anytime I say something that it goes a bit too far to keep me on the mainstream media of YouTube. I don't have to. So I'm not talking out of my ass or not backing shit up by reading selective readings intentionally to manipulate you. Most of the stuff, and you'll know this, most of the stuff I bring up as references are directly related to the stuff that either the people I'm doing clips about cite themselves or reference, in adjunct by saying the person's name or some sort of abstract. A lot of times they don't even bother to put the whole fucking thing up, knowing you won't go digging, because why would you? It's a waste of fucking time. You know they're full of shit. But I'll do it so you can go, you know what? I've seen somebody actually look past this lie, and it's not just a lie. It's an active manipulation. And that's the business this asshole is in. Russell Brand is a propaganda minister of his own little online fiefdom. And beyond the fact that he's an ignorant asshole, period, the fact that he manipulates his viewers into this end times level panic all the fucking time, and then has the fucking nerve to lead meditation moments at his live events, like he's some sort of like fucking crackhead Marianne Williamson, is gross. Other than that, I have no opinion. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. That was a lot. That was a lot. We haven't covered him in a while. We haven't covered Rusty Trombone in a while because, quite frankly, it's the same shit every time. And it's getting worse. But we got so much to cover and so little time. Can I just race ahead? There's so much to do. Okay. God damn it. There's so much. Look. All right. Let me show you where we're like the stuff that I have up here. Okay. Of course, since the Twitter files 7/8, 7 didn't do shit. So they rushed 8 out, and right now that's about the DOD manipulating Middle Eastern accounts by having sock puppet accounts. And apparently Twitter found out about it at one point, but it took them a while to shut them down. But they did. End of story. Also, the idea that, you know, the people that this is pissing off, of course, is the Iranian government and anybody who doesn't want women to drive cars, which I guess is, you know, Tom Fitton and everybody who goes to Talking Points USA. Look at the, I love this and the Chiron. And the Dow. This has got to be fucking with them as well. Damn it. Why won't the Dow drop to 26.5? Why won't... Die! Why won't you ruin people's 401ks so Trump can have a chance at a comeback? By the way, this is titled, Who Else Was the FBI Paying to Spy on Americans? Now, I'm sure we'll get into January 6th. There were the idea that there were people... We now know, by the way, from the January 6th committee, from the text messages and the messages that they received, that were, you know, people were saying, holy fuck, you got to do something. Like I'm all for protesting, but these guys are going to murder people. They're making pipe bombs. They're building a gallows. They're bringing guns. This is different. And so those people who considered themselves maggots, full blown maggots, were all of a sudden getting really fucking nervous that on the day, the Ashley Babbitts of the world were going to have guns in their bags, and once they made it through, they were just going to slaughter people. And that crossed the line even for some people who were comfortable storming the steps and standing up there and going, yay, Donald Trump, uber alles, right? But the storyline is now that the FBI is paying people to be un-American.
Latest batch of Twitter files revealing more details of FBI influence.
No. Yes. You know what? One of the biggest things that it shows is that more often than not, Twitter told the FBI to go pound sand. The FBI was like, hey, could you look at this? And they're like, yeah, we looked at it. Never mind. That's it. Hardly hand in glove, I would say.
On Twitter to try to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Yes, the Hunter Biden laptop story, because there is no Hunter Biden laptop.
And the White House simply refusing to answer questions about it all. Roll tape.
The latest Twitter files show that the intelligence community was actively involved in discrediting the Hunter Biden laptop story.
No, they weren't.
Does it bother?
Oh, by the way, notice the phrasing here. That's fascinating to me. Was actively involved. Here, listen to her say it again. And remember that the story itself is discredited. It is false. So the intelligence community being involved in, if you tell the truth about someone who's lying to people, you are actively involved in the discrediting of that incredible source, that non-credible source. Get me? That's fascinating, the phraseology.
Was actively involved in discrediting the Hunter Biden laptop story. Does it bother the president and those at the White House that a government agency like the FBI was involved
under Donald J. Trump
in suppressing a legitimate news story?
It wasn't a legitimate news story. It was an October surprise, and it failed miserably.
Yeah, I'm just going to refer you to the FBI. I'm not going to comment from here about that.
We are joined now by Judicial Watch President
and king of the Blush Club for Men,
Tom Fitton.
Honest to God, I don't know what the deal is with Tom Fitton. He wears more blush than any man. I'm surprised the Proud Boys aren't picketing him and calling him a groomer.
The extraordinary thing is they are referring the media to the organization that apparently was disseminating misinformation.
Nope.
To try.
They were warning of misinformation.
To influence a social media company. I mean,
no. And even then, they were telling the truth and it didn't work.
Why should we go to them for the story?
Why should you go to him? Dude has a company called Judicial Watch, and he's not even a fucking lawyer.
When they were providing...
But you don't have to be a lawyer to watch justice.
The media...
I have Law and Order on the box set, all 22 seasons.
With misinformation before.
Yeah, he does need a French powder wig. I obviously like. Is when somebody going to put like one of those fake beauty spots on Tom Fitton? Sink me, if this isn't exactly the kind of circumstance I would find myself in. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and on top of that, the last I checked, Joe Biden is president of the United States. He's responsible for the conduct of the FBI.
Is he responsible for the conduct of the FBI when Donald John Trump was fucking president? No.
And should be demanding accountability. Is this still going on? On top.
No. Why would it still be going on? Is there anything about the Hunter Biden laptop story you can't find details of online? Of course not. And no one gives a shit. You know why? Because there's no there. Even the stories where they dove in, which I've covered constantly, like every time they come up, they're like, well, there's no direct, signs of a crime, but it's the appearance of impropriety that, meanwhile, Trump is literally signing deals in the Middle East while he's president. That comes out now, and they're like, what, who?
Up with this effort to interfere with the election
interfere with the election by not letting our October surprise bullshit get through.
At that time, you had the FBI working with their former colleague, James Baker, over at Twitter.
So everybody who leaves an organization is suspect, is just basically still on the tit for that organization? That's how it works from now on? Do you see the trap that the Republicans are opening for themselves for all these fuckers who have left government and joined, become lobbyists or become executives at all these other companies? Those guys, their time in government had nothing to do with it. They're just smart businessmen and they go where the money is.
Who was the former attorney, top attorney for the FBI, moved over to Twitter. You had the FBI paying Twitter to censor and spy on Americans.
Oh, citation needed.
So, what else?
By the way, the illusion that these accounts that they're supposedly looking at are automatically Americans because they're like, my name is Joe from Ohio, is a bunch of shit. And Matt Taibbi does this whole big thing about how the FBI started caring about these accounts that barely had any followers. That's because that's how troll fucking accounts work. They follow everybody. They have no followers because where the fuck would they get them other than similar accounts, which red flags them? If bots follow bot accounts, the algorithm can tell. So they just sit there below the radar with less than 5 and they don't chart. It was one of the ways they could get around the bot sentinels that they did have working in the automated aspect of Twitter.
This was the FBI. Who else is the FBI paying? Were they paying Facebook, it looks like? Were they paying Google and YouTube, which owns YouTube? Look.
Wait, Google and YouTube own YouTube? Fabulous.
The FBI paid...
YouTube owns YouTube? When did that shit start?
Christopher Steele to dig up dirt and create dirt.
No, he already had the dirt beforehand. They paid him to talk to other people because he actually had connections. He used to work for MI6.
Dirt on Donald Trump.
Yeah. That's not a good sign, stupid. Yeah, that's a good... Put the fact that all of these companies, their stock prices are going up. Meanwhile, Twitter's is frozen in place because it's now privately owned and it's not worth a shit right now.
And then
Pinterest. The fuck, get off Pinterest's back.
Again,
was the FBI controlling housewives who wanted to set up entire, wish boards of shoes?
FBI starts paying Twitter and these other big social media platforms to spy on Americans.
Wow. Why would they have to do that when somebody like Elon Musk can roll through and just give Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss, and Schellenberg access to your fucking DMs? They all, ladies and gentlemen, have employee laptops. That's right. Right now, all the people who are writing writing the Twitter files for Elon Musk can just look right in your fucking DMs. Right now. Everybody's. But, these people are trustworthy, not like, I don't know, agents that swear an oath to protect the Constitution and have to follow the law or they'll lose their job and go to jail.
and it looks like to suppress information that could have helped Trump and hurt Biden during.
By the way, Earthshine is saying the good news is everybody's gotten tired of this shit and won't believe them going forward. No one in my town have their Trump stuff out. The gig is up. Younger generations will vote blue, not red, and it's because they don't like old fucks who lie. Yeah, there's a lot of something to that.
In the campaign, this is direct election interference.
No, it isn't. Yes, well, you guys try to interfere in the election by lying, and someone stops you. So they're interfering with your interference. Seriously, the New York Post story about the Hunter Biden laptop, the hard drive called laptop that they saw printouts from with no metadata, and a thumb drive with some video files on it, and went, yeah, this all comes from the laptop, which I'll show you later, I promise. That stuff, that story comes out on October 14th of 2020. Rudy Giuliani allegedly had this stuff in his hands in January. John Paul McIsaac was shopping it around in October of 2019. Of course, after Rudy had gone in August of 2019 and came back with a hard drive full of shit that he paid $5 million for. Allegedly, they were selling it for $3 million and he paid $2 million more. I guess he'd read The Art of the Deal, and part of one of the chapters is roll it up and stuff it up your own ass. So they had this hard drive full of bullshit. The Russians had broken into the Burisma servers and not only taken files out, but had planted files as well. Same shit that they did when they stole the AstraZeneca vaccine, which, by the way, of all the vaccines to steal, short of Johnson & Johnson, literally the worst one. Because it was the least effective, and they ended up having to buy the Pfizer, Moderna in the UK. That said, America gave away all of our AstraZeneca. Like, it'll work, but it's not great, so you can have it.
And the Biden administration needs to be held accountable for it.
For what happened during the Trump administration. In an organization run by the guy that Trump replaced after he illegally fired the last guy. Pardon me while I boo-fuckity-hoo.
The irony is it occurred during the Trump administration.
It is. It's out. Oh, God damn it. It's like... Yes, it is ironic, isn't it? It's almost as if the Biden campaign had no material power over fucking anyone, and Trump was trying to manipulate every aspect of the government for his own power while he was there, and still failed miserably because he's a lifelong fuck-up.
And isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
It's one of the...
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's so interesting, it actually takes a giant dump on the forehead of your argument.
Few things during the Trump administration that they don't want to talk about.
Right.
It's one of the few things they don't want to talk... No, I'll talk about it all the time. That allegedly this manipulation happened when Trump was basically what? Giving them the go-ahead? Just fill your boots. And then what happened? They went, so we should just tell them what we need them to do? Yeah, don't be afraid of them. You tell them. That he's apparently under the misapprehension that I guess that he assumed they were going to take his narrative and force it down Twitter's throat instead of like, we should just tell them the truth of what we find and just be as direct as possible. He just assumed they were going to carry his water because he's that fucking dumb.
Well, and it's what's extraordinary is Democrats were leading the charge against the FBI 40 years ago during
40 years ago.
Something called the Church Committee hearings after Watergate to try to say you got to take politics out of the FBI, you got to take it out of all the intel services, which were also playing.
Right. Hey, here's a good idea. Why don't you just talk about how Jimmy Carter was concerned about mail-in ballots before the invention of the personal computer and cell phones.
Role in this cover-up.
Geez, if only Jimmy Carter had known about QR codes. Why didn't somebody tell him in 1976?
I mean, it's just whatever happened to their concern about civil liberties?
Well, they set up rules about it, and those are met largely. And there's different rules for foreign actors who do not get the rights and privileges of U.S. citizens, and people inside the United States who, even domestic terrorists, who get special protections because they are citizens. So there's a lot more, hoops you got to jump through.
Well, and on top of that, they are doing it now.
Are they?
The Twitter files show that the relationships continued until very recently.
Did they? They had a relationship?
And it's not just the FBI, it's Department of Homeland Security.
Weird. It's almost as if there's some international and domestic terrorism that happens in, using social media as both an incendiary point and as a communication tool between the people who are attempting to carry out those violent acts. By the way, this is the Republican Party, I'd like to remind you, all of whom used to think that there was a fucking commie or a Muslim behind every fucking corner, and that we had to watch out for any chance that they would have to sneak language. I mean, these are the people who think that, like, if a drag queen reads a storybook to your kid, they're going to be caught in a trans tractor beam and turned gay.
You have special relationships with
book burners, literally modern book burners. But it's us. Okay.
These big tech companies to suppress information, and from the White House.
Yeah, why are they suppressing fentanyl sales and human trafficking and child porn and revenge porn? Why are they? I mean, Tom's got to have something to watch too.
Podium, and from the president, you've had direct instructions and cajoling of the big tech platforms to continue to censor.
Russia, if you're listening, if you can find the 30,000 emails, yeah. Cajoling. Was there cajoling going on? Were you concerned about the cajoling? Was there glad-handing, backslapping? Don't tell me somebody grinned at somebody.
Americans on topics the Biden people are sensitive about, like COVID and other disputes that...
COVID and other disputes. Tell me again, who was president when the first lockdowns happened? I don't remember. It's been so long.
Joe Biden thinks that you're not allowed to think differently from him on, otherwise you'll be censored from.
Right. He does? Is that what he says? You can't think differently than me or you will be censored. All of the censoring they're clamoring about started during the Trump administration. All of it. Largely because sensible people were concerned that maggots were going to get themselves killed with horse dewormer and fish tank cleaner, which they were taking in suppository form.
Twitter and elsewhere.
Hey, Tom,
and elsewhere. Bathroom stalls, the town square. Perhaps it's smoky underground swamp creature clubs where cigars are imbibed upon. Is that how you consume a cigar? I don't know.
Before we go, I want to talk about January 6th.
Yeah. Since we're making false equivalencies and pretending to give a shit about law and order, it would be my fault if I didn't address this specifically.
We had 4 criminal referrals from the January 6th committee for Donald Trump. What happened?
You're a lawyer. Explain. Oh, right, you're not.
Happens now?
Well, the first thing is we all go out and get Sephora gift cards because I don't want people to think that I'm blushing on purpose.
Well, I don't think much is going to happen with those referrals. I think the more problematic issue is the Justice Department currently is using January 6th as
using
a pretext to go after those who disputed, it looks like in good faith, the election in 2020. It was a big...
No, they aren't. No, look, all right. For lack of an if-only moment, the January 6th committee isn't going after anybody who wasn't actively attacking the fucking Capitol on day, not like, or participating in it as a sales pitch in the case of Trump and Eastman. Nobody gives a shit if you lived in fucking Arizona and you're like, this is fake news, he really won. If you can have all the fucking yard signs you want, nobody cares. Nobody cares. As a matter of fact, there's 2 of my favorite cases in the January 6th thing, is these 2 guys, both of whom were right next to Officer Fanone. Fanone. And one of them was literally beating him with a flagpole. His buddy was with him egging him on, but didn't hit him. Didn't physically act, but just kind of like was part of the crowd, was part of the cover, made sure that nobody, I guess, could come up behind the guy who was striking the cop with a fucking flagpole and stop him from doing it. The guy who hit him with the flagpole, that guy's in jail, and he's going to stay in jail. The other guy went home, admitted he was there. It was on fucking video, filmed himself, proud of hanging out with his buddy. And then when he sat in front of a judge, was like, I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me. It was so wrong. That fucker went home. Now, explain to me, Republicans, anybody, maggots in the crowd, I know you're there. Explain to me how you feel about the idea that a cop is being beaten in the street with a baseball bat or a fucking steel pole, and another dude is acting as lookout and protection for the guy who's doing the beating so that no one will stop him. How do you feel about only one of those guys getting sentenced to anything or getting, that the other guy gets probation? How do you feel about that, maggots? Trump fans, explain yourself. How is the lookout in an assault on a police officer somehow less involved in the beating? Maybe the guy just didn't have the nerve. Maybe next time he will. Maybe he was like, blunt weapon's not going to do anything. I wouldn't join in unless I had a knife. Fuck you. The nerve of these fucking people. We're the law and order party. Shut the fuck up.
Controversy was a big debate, and there.
It was a big debate, I thought my wife was cheating, and she had this guy at work that she talked to a little bit too much. There was a back and forth. My wife and I argued about it and stuff. So, Your Honor, I had to murder her because I think she was really cheating. It turned out she wasn't. But, I didn't know that at the time when I murdered her. So you should give me a break on the murder because I was under the impression that she was cheating. And I hate cheaters, Your Honor. It's why I beat that cop on the steps of the Capitol.
There was a big fight about what state, federal, and constitutional laws applied to election disputes.
Election disputes? Motherfucker, there's no dispute. That's illegal. They're stopping the counting of electoral votes. They built a fucking gallows, you chump.
And now the Biden team wants to jail those who raise...
Who what? Wants to jail those who what?
Questions about the election process.
Oh, okay. We're just going to... That's what it is. That's the Biden administration wants to jail people who question the election process. That's just gonna, this asshole is just gonna let that asshole say that and go, So the Biden administration, Joseph Robinette Biden, as president of the United States of America, wants to, I guess, and maybe in his heart of hearts, he just doesn't have the nerve to carry it out, or maybe he's just waiting, he's biding his time, according to Tom Fitton, to arrest anyone who questions things. So where do they start? Is Steve Ducey first to go? Or I guess Peter Ducey? Whichever one, any of the Ducey family?
It's to me, it's suppression. And obviously the target is Donald Trump, who is the likely candidate against Biden.
Not at this point, dummy.
Which is just further indication that the DOJ, with the help of the House, is terribly politicized.
The DOJ, with the help of the House, I guess that means the Jan 6 committee, so they needed help being politicized. Or it could be that the particular aspect of justice that they're having to deal with right now is not your kind of like run-of-the-mill violent act or some sort of Wall Street corruption, but involved the former president of the United States and his political lackeys, both in his party and without, who were trying to keep him in power, which is at its root a political circumstance. Just because the crime is political does not mean that those involved in executing search warrants or forming indictments or any of that stuff are therefore politicized, because otherwise you could never charge a politician, because everything you go after when it comes to a politician is you being politicized. It's just, I mean, are these guys fucking children? These are supposedly grown men. Fuck, I'm probably older than both these guys. That's the embarrassing part. By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. I'm wound up today, man. Some of this stuff is aggravating. But at the same time, I'm having a good time. I hope you're having a good time too. Don't forget to like and subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show in any way that you can. I adore you guys. I appreciate it more than you know. Wound up. Ways and Means voted to publicly release Trump's taxes. Right on. We've been waiting for that. Thank you so much, Holly Berry. There was a group of Republicans that warned against releasing them today, which I thought was particularly funny. Let me see if where are they? I think we put it in here. I'm going to find it. 1 second. There was a gathering of Republicans who did this, and they were like, you better not release these things, because it's going to start a big thing where in the future they're going to come after anybody who blah blah. Oh, where the fuck is it? I know I saw it before. Okay, hold on. I've got to see if I can find this. Hold on 1 second. GOP warns against release of Trump taxes. Something like that. And it's a video, and I know I'll find it. Boom. Let's see. News. Fuck. News is yeah. U.S. News and here you go. Continue. This guy right here. GOP lawmakers warn against terrible precedent in releasing Trump tax returns as committee weighs decision. A group of GOP lawmakers on the House committee issued a last-minute warning against voting to release the former president's tax returns to the public ahead of a meeting over the issue. They're gonna what? A group of Republican lawmakers, is it in here? Did they say it? No. I wish there was video of it, because they did all gather around. Our concern is not whether the president should have made his tax returns public as is traditional, nor about the accuracy of his tax returns. Yeah, no shit. Our concern is that if taken, this committee action will set a terrible precedent that unleashes a dangerous new political weapon that reaches far beyond the former president and overturns decades of privacy protections for average Americans that have existed since the Watergate reforms. Okay, presidential candidates are not average. They are above average just by the awareness in the public that they even fucking exist. Secondarily, all the other ones release their taxes. So you can head this precedent off at the pass just by releasing your taxes and not being a fucking criminal. Which is, I understand, that's a high bar for Republicans. So what are you going to do? Now, obviously, this is upsetting for Rudolph Giuliani. This is the most disgraceful day in Congress's history. That's saying a lot, because I've seen Marjorie Taylor Greene speak on the floor. So let's see what he means, though.
Topping tonight's prime news, the Kabuki Theater had its last show today. Earlier, the highly
I'm so glad that they're keeping their opinion out of it, and just because this is prime news on Newsmax, and it's news, they're maxing out the news. They don't even have time for opinion.
Partisan House Select Committee tasked with investigating January 6th voted in favor of sending 4 criminal referrals against Donald Trump.
Excuse me, I'm just going to enjoy that and chub a little.
to the Department of Justice, and they let election denier Jamie Rath.
Oh, thank you for writing political theater up there in letters, so I understand that you mean it's political theater. I mean, why come up with a cute little phrase like The Daily Show, like everybody else is doing, when you could just say it? It's so Goebbels. I love it.
Can make that announcement. Now, the fantasy charges that they want the former president.
The fantasy charges. Very exciting.
Indicted on.
They must involve Alina Habba.
Are as follows: inciting or assisting an insurrection, obstruction of an official proceeding of Congress, conspiracy to defraud the United States, and conspiracy to make a false statement.
Which pretty much could cover his entire presidency and his candidacy. Both of them.
Now, having witnessed Trump's January 6th speech firsthand from the press risers outside the White House,
where I waited with bated breath for his eyes to gaze upon me.
Specifically, remember Trump saying peacefully and patriotically,
yeah, walk down there, because we don't want you to tear up the shrubs or fuck up the grounds. But once we get to the Capitol, knock yourself the fuck out. It's time to hang Mike Pence.
March to the Capitol. But
yeah, the marching part wasn't the problem. As a matter of fact, if you started tearing shit up as you marched down there, they might have warned them that you were going to be violent once you got there. Kind of a don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes kind of a statement, if you think about it.
Regardless, it's important to note that.
And yes, and then once you get there, you're going to have to fight like hell, or you're not going to have a country anymore. But don't start the fighting like hell till you get there.
That this move by the Jan 6th committee holds no legal weight. It's just a criminal.
Yeah, it does.
Referral. Now, that's the first.
It's just a criminal referral. Well, I'm sure he feels good about that. Should we check in on Truth Social in a little bit to see?
Of its kind against a former president, as a matter of fact, but nonetheless.
Well, I mean, he's a special kind of a former president, you know. I mean, there's a lot that's not special about him, like the fact that he's a one-termer.
The never-ending witch hunt against Trump continues.
The what? The never-ending? Never-ending?
President, as a matter of fact, but nonetheless, the never-ending witch hunt.
Yeah, never-ending. Okay, I thought I misheard it.
Against Trump continues.
I've never had anything hend in my life, but so once it starts, it's hard to stop, I guess.
Led by a band of Trump-hating partisans who will do anything to keep 45 from becoming 47. Now, let's not forget the words of aspiring martyr and soon-to-be
What are we talking about? His belt? His belt size? I don't think anybody can stop that.
Employed rhino Liz Cheney, who said, I certainly will do whatever it takes to make sure Donald Trump isn't anywhere close to the Oval Office. And that is what it's all about, folks. She's surely sticking to that promise. Now, Trump...
She's not sticking to any promises, and don't call me Shirley.
Took to Truth Social tonight to respond, stating, quote, these folks don't get it. That when they come after me, people who love freedom rally around me. It strengthens me. What does...
I draw my strength from them like the mighty oak draws the urine of a dog from the soil and turns it into my hair color. It is...
Doesn't kill me, makes me stronger.
I'm sorry, but at his age, I would just be aware, you know, get yourself checked. Obviously, a proctological exam is not a bad idea. He's got Ronnie Jackson's number or whatever, and prostate cancer might not kill you, but it won't make you stronger. It's just weird.
Well, here to weigh in on this political show trial and more is former...
Is one of the strongest people, and with a nunt only second to Donald Trump.
New York City Mayor and former attorney for President Trump, Mr. Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, so glad to have you with us this evening, sir.
Yeah, that's not even close to true.
What do you make of these criminal referrals from this partisan January 6th committee?
Probably one of the most disgraceful days in the history of the United States.
Wait a minute. Probably? What kind of bullshit? What? I was promised something. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Like, by the way, it's not a good time to quote Kanye lyrics, dipshit. It's just like, whew. All right. For the record, this says, Giuliani, the most disgraceful day in Congress's history. What's this probably stuff? Take out the word probably, though. It makes me sound wishy-washy.
It's Congress, and by far, its most illegal, unethical committee made up of almost to a person people who disgrace the Congress.
Or despise Donald Trump for being a crook and an asshole. I mean, that's also... Hold on real quick. I'm trying to find something, and it's bugging me. Whoops. I need to take a typing class. That's all there is to it. That's my next big thing.
I mean, just take Schiff. Whenever we see
Please.
Schiff, he's talking about Russian collusion, Russian agents that he has that collaborated with Trump, and never has the liar produced anyone. The chairman.
They indicted half a dozen fucking people. Some of them were your friends. Levin Igor. Hey, Moshe, baby. Can't wait to see you again. Who the fuck is Moshe, fat fuck?
Is all bent out of shape about people who are election deniers. He's been an election denier for 8 years. So I go on and on. I mean, this is it.
Rudy, of course you can go on and on. It's what you do.
This is a committee of hypocrites. And they've done a definitive report. Here it is, January 6th, right here.
Oh, look at that. He's actually got it in folders, unlike his fake Hunter Biden files, which he just leaves around in marked up pen form.
Already completed it. Why have to spend more time on it? Probably to get a few more votes.
Dummy, they released the report on the final day of their referral. They don't need more votes. All right, shit.
They really found nothing we didn't know.
Yes, a lot of us, yes, we were way ahead of this. We knew Trump was involved in it. We know that he was fucking disgusting and that you're his buddy and being disgusting. Yeah.
Here's what we didn't know going in. We didn't know why Ashley Babbitt was killed.
Yes, we do. Because she was part of a group of people who were climbing through broken windows and they were still clearing people out of the Congress. And she came through wearing a backpack and the magnetometers had been torn down when people were storming into the fucking place. And there was no way for that cop to know whether she was armed or not. And if she'd gotten through with other people or they continued to come through, she could have killed someone or killed him or killed, been run over herself, I suppose, at the point. I don't know that he shot her to save her from herself, but who gives a shit? By the way, pipe bombs, anyone? What was in her backpack?
They didn't interview a single witness as to the only homicide that took place that day.
No, that's not true. The girl who was trampled to death, the maggot with the flag that said, "Don't tread on me," who was stomped to death, that's a homicide. Trump's supporters stomped her to death. And by the way, just because they failed at killing cops, I think attempted murder and murder should be the same crime. Just because you failed doesn't mean you weren't murderous in your intent.
That's a disgrace for an American investigatory committee.
That's just stupid.
They did little or no research.
And go back. I don't know why they're showing this video.
On what has to
he looks even weirder when you turn the sound off. He looks like he's lurching or trying to take a shit down his leg.
be done. Should there be, escalations of these things? Meaning we should be increasing our military. In the period of time that we found ourselves in this circumstance that here we are now, we're still dependent too much on the Russian military. So,
wait, what? Hold on. The fuck? What?
Military. So no or no research on what has to be done. Should there be, escalations of these things? Meaning we should be increasing our military. In the period of time that we found ourselves in this circumstance that here we are now, we're still dependent too much on the Russian military. So we displayed, we can display great strength with these military.
Wait, what? First of all, I mean, this is just got to be a fucking brain fart that he's having. But or accidental confession. The fuck?
They did little or no research.
They did little or no research. This started off with something about Ashley Babbitt.
On what has to be done.
They did little or no research on what has to be done.
Should there be, escalations of these things?
Should there be escalations of these things? I don't know what the fuck these things are. Do you? What? escalations of January, like another January 6th, or that next time Trump supporters will have fucking rockets and grenades?
Meaning we should be increasing our military.
By the way, can I, if I may? This is not related to reality at all. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. May I? You're going to love this. Like, thank you, Rudy Giuliani, for having a weird brain fart that points to yet another weird disassociative disorder that Republicans have about the Biden administration, defense, and whatever. But all of a sudden, Rudy's concerned that we are too reliant.
Of these things, meaning we should be increasing our military. In the period of time that we found ourselves in this circumstance, and here we are now, we're still dependent too much on the Russian military. So we displayed, we can display great strength with these things. We also can display great weakness because some of our people get frightened.
All right. Yeah. Drunk doesn't do it. Yeah, I don't know, Sarpas. I don't buy this as drunk. This is just sundowning or fucking maybe a bad batch of Adderall. Maybe it's a mixture of pain meds and alcohol. People talk shit on that. Good Lord. Well, I just want to see how she responds to it. How do you come back from what he just said and try to make it make sense? If she says absolutely or I couldn't agree more, which is, standard at Newsmax, it's stunning.
Mr. Mayor, do you believe the DOJ...
She didn't even try. No, she didn't even try. Let me just change subjects. I don't know what the fuck that was. Just don't cut to her until she stops shaking her head.
They will take action as a result of this recommendation.
Pardon me?
Oh, boy.
Do you believe the DOJ will take action after this? I mean, obviously, we know how they feel about Trump supporters.
Not the big question. You promised you wouldn't ask me that. We made an agreement. I talked to your producer. You asked me to come on and fill time with gibberish. And you promised me no questions related to previous questions because where am I?
Will this affect the former president?
Just be happy, ma'am, that he's too far away to fart on you.
Well, they've investigated me so much, I guess I'm not concerned for myself.
She didn't ask you about you, stupid.
I also have this opinion from a federal judge clearing me of all the charges that Benny Thompson brought against me. I think he's getting...
Oh, yeah? You got an opinion from a judge that just clears you of all the charges? Well, I guess, hey, if you know a federal judge, I guess you don't have to face trial. Must be nice. What was that whole thing about two-tiered justice system again?
Old like the president and didn't bother to read the fact that all the charges he brought against me...
Hold on, wait.
The charges that Benny Thompson brought against me, I think he's getting old like the president and didn't bother to read the fact.
Oh, Benny Johnson is getting old like Biden, and he's just having a brain fart. Unlike the clarity that you can always expect from Rudy Giuliani.
That all the charges he brought against me were dismissed in federal court 3 months ago by a Obama federal judge. I don't know if the chairman has all its wits about him. I don't know that he ever had all his wits. I do know he's not a particularly successful congressman.
He's the head of the January 6th committee, one of the most historic committees in the history of the country. And it's probably one of the tightest apparatus I've ever fucking seen in terms of presenting a case to the United States citizenry and regarding a former politician, much less the former president of the fucking United States. I think they've handled it masterfully.
And he really shoots from the hip.
It's really just shoot from the hip. That's not what she asked you, stupid. Let me go back to this.
Well, they've investigated me.
Hold on.
Pardon me?
Pardon me? Okay. She's asked him once.
Do you believe the DOJ will take action after this? I mean, obviously, we know how they feel about Trump supporters. Will this affect the former president?
Okay. Very clear. 4 charges referred to the DOJ about the president, about the former president, Donald Trump. Your client, your former client, who never paid you, but whatever the fuck. Shit. And then what does Rudy do? More gibberish. And he just starts talking about himself.
Well, they've investigated me so much, I guess I'm not concerned for myself. I also have this,
get out of jail free card
opinion from a federal judge clearing me of all the charges that Benny Thompson brought against me. I think,
which he can't bring charges against you. It's a fucking committee.
I think he's getting old like the president and didn't bother to read the fact that all the charges he brought against me were dismissed in federal court 3 months ago by a Obama federal judge. I don't know if the chairman has all its wits about him. I don't know that he ever had all his wits. I do know he's not a particularly successful congressman. And he really shoots from the hip.
Wow, they just gave up. That's fucking amazing. Well, honestly, I don't know what the fuck he was talking about. That is America's mayor, Rudolph Giuliani, the man tasked with driving the Italian mob out of New York so that the Russians and Chinese could move in, who led the charge against the the legal and verified votes of the American people on behalf of a failed businessman who now runs a campaign out of Mar-a-Lago simply so that he can stay there and have campaign events come to him where he can charge his own campaign for events and take donor money that way. Much of it, by the way, coming from foreign sources at this point. He's just assuming that the FEC will be too afraid to go after him, I guess. That's some quality programming right there. Fuck me. That's amazing. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. That's a clip that Newsmax put up in its entirety that they thought somehow, I guess, made a case for something. I don't know. I'm honest. I'm baffled. That's amazing. That was just fucking gibberish. I mean, I will say that he was coherent enough to be nasty. I think that's probably the most telling thing, is that none of what he said made any fucking sense, but he was still able to do it in a really shitty, mean-spirited, like, disgusting interpersonal way. Like, just, right? Fucking hell. Scott Perry, PA is screwed. This is true. I told you, they're going to lose 3 Republicans in the next couple of months. They're not going to hold on to their balance of power. And then, oh my God, in February, March, there is going to be a big, like, oh my God, the Democrats manipulated the situation so that they're using special elections to seize power again. Never mind the fact that they'll have regular elections and the people who won, like the dude in fucking New York who lied about his entire resume, is going to lose the seat, be replaced by a Republican. They'll have a special election. The Democrat who ran, who, just barely missed it, is going to win, and that's going to throw a monkey wrench in their whole system. Hilarious. But can I do one more, since I'm not going to do an afternoon show tomorrow because I have a show at Flappers. By the way, if you're a Patreon supporter, you will see the show for live, and if you're I will stream it. Also, just for the record, oh, right on. Thanks, brother. Sometimes I get messages during the show from people who are visually watching it. That if you're in LA and you're a Patreon supporter, let me know, and you and a guest can come to the show. Our regulars, you're just kind of permanently on the list because they know at this point, because I do the show at Flappers regularly enough. And this will apply going forward to as many shows as I possibly can. I might even get, hopefully, I'm working on this, a guest list of 10 Patreon supporters and their friends who can come to like Nerd Halen shows as part of my list, and I'll just use that for them. Because usually in whatever town we're in, there's not more than a couple. I don't have that many Patreon supporters where that number can go up, but that's what I'm going to do. By the way, yes, like, subscribe, follow me on all your social media accounts, and subscribing really, really does help. Also, if you feel like commenting on my videos, please do. If you want to turn on the notification bell, you can. If you don't want to, that's fine too. Unlike Rusty Trombone, I am not interested in tracking you. Now, one more thing before I go. I might not even be able to do the whole thing. Give me 1 second. Let me check on something, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Hold on 1 second. Hi, everybody. So I have one more. Let's see. And I want to see if, where's this? Close this. And then, yeah, I think this is the shortest one I have, so I can tack one more on. And this is kind of particularly funny. So the Talking Points USA, I think, is having this gathering or whatever, and Bannon is just dilly-dallying at this fucking thing all day. And Wendy Rogers from Arizona, she's in the state assembly. She's pissed that Kari Lake lost. Wendy Rogers, I want to see people arrested. Well, welcome to our show, folks, because we've been waiting for that from Trump for a long time. But I want to see why, don't you? Let's see. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe she wants Kari Lake arrested. I mean, a boy can dream, can't he?
Wendy Rogers, Colonel Wendy Rogers with us. Talk to me about Kari Lake, this lawsuit. We've got two, I think a couple got thrown out.
By the way, I haven't watched the majority of this or whatever, but this girl always seems to be like she's waiting in line to be interviewed and never gets chosen. She's like the Matt Damon of the Jimmy Kimmel show with this stuff. Like, none of the clips that I've seen from this event have her talking to anybody. At this point, her mic's even laying on the table. Like, whatever. By the way, I'd like to recognize that Mr. Corporations and Big Tech and woke politic, blah, 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 is drinking Starbucks.
But some important ones got left in. Of course, the mainstream media is saying, oh, the thing's over. Kari Lake saying the opposite. We believe strongly she's going to win. Yes. Right? And she's going to be... No one believes that. Nobody. Governor of Arizona. Yes. And most importantly, you got to give money. You need, pay for this shit. Like, you need to give us money so that we can make this really happen. Silent Katie Hobbs is going to be put in the witness stand, right?
Yes.
No.
She's going to have to...
Why? What in the world thinks you can materially compel her to testify in your fucking fantasy lawsuit that have nothing to do with her?
She wets herself every time she has to speak publicly, right? Hate to be so...
You look like you smell like urine.
And Richard too. He'll be on the stand.
Richard's why don't we have Bill Gates on the stand?
Yeah, while you're at it, shit. Why don't you just call Olaf Scholz, the head of the World Economic Forum, and quiz him about the Great Reset? Why don't we have whoever came up with Jade Helm?
I don't know, but
why don't we bring out the people who, like the Sandy Hook kids?
there were 10 counts, and great to be with all of you. And
no, there's only one count on Sesame Street, and I appreciate him learning, teaching me how to count very early with his wonderful pointy felt nose. I was always amazed at just how pointy his nose was, considering he was made out of felt. That was like a hard fight. Like you looked like you could open an oil can with that thing. It was amazing.
Sunny Phoenix here.
Johnny Phoenix. Booger. Wrong one. That's Johnny Fever.
There were 10 counts. 8 were not advanced, but the 2 big ones are.
Tell me why are those the 2 big ones?
Well,
yeah, tell us. These are the huge ones. I mean, he shouldn't even have to tell you. She shouldn't have to tell him. We all know what.
2 big ones are the machines, basically, and the chain.
Okay, that's pretty big. The machines, basically. Well, why didn't you tell me? With a legal argument, Your Honor, what we have here is a legal circumstance where I would like to file a brief on behalf of my client, which of course is humanity, against the rise of the machines. This was Culpepper v. Skynet, if you don't mind me saying so.
Chain of custody. So I checked.
The machines and chain of custody. Where what? You're just going to argue that drop boxes don't count, even if you cure the ballots, even if you check the signatures, which you do.
Checked in with the team right before I got here so that I could have accurate information.
So the machines basically is accurate information. Can you lay off the specifics too much? This is fucking overwhelming.
Number one,
the machines basically.
Team tells me that this.
The team tells me. So if this doesn't happen, it's not my fucking fault.
Is how we will disclose and lay bare the intentionality of what has happened. This is going to show us that there was.
Lay bare the intentionality of the bifurcariousness of the flagellization of the electioneering process, where you have a discrepancization, Your Honor, of the intention. They intended to do this, even if it didn't happen. Your Honor, where are you going? Stop laughing. This is a crime against. We've got to destroy the machines.
It's intentionality.
He said intentionality twice.
Before and during this.
Yeah, and after. The worst kind is the intentionality afterwards. How Southern has done Dabney Coleman. Oh, I see. Has a very Dabney Coleman-esque. Reverend, you got balls as big as church bells.
Whole debacle.
So hold on. What?
Hold on. You're losing people with this intentionality shit. Let me slow you down right there.
What you're saying is that this was not just an act of omission. It just didn't happen. This was actually intended. And this is what she put.
No, it was not intended. There was intentionality, okay? There's intentionalization, wherein everybody was intending to intentionalize.
And this is what the judge did not throw out, right? This was intentionally done to suppress the vote of Carrie.
Yes. Now, does anyone see the glorious moments in legal briefs that the judge is writing right now that will throw out the other 2? The first 8 he had to throw out entirely. The other 2 were so fucking convoluted, he had to actually read up on them and go, nope, bullshit.
Lake supporters and MAGA voters in Maricopa County on game day, correct?
Yes, and so we're talking what we.
Boo! They made these machines break. They broke the machines through their intention. It was like scanners. Well, my powers don't work anymore.
What I want to see is people arrested.
Amen. That's what Jesus wanted.
Hold on. Do you think Colonel Rogers would be like Judge Roy Beam, right? She's a hanging judge, right?
You do realize that the people you're talking about hanging are all Republicans, right? Except, I guess, Katie Hobbs.
Some Arizona
but all the people in Maricopa County that run this shit.
Territory justice. We'll move it up to Prescott, right? And just have a tribunal.
Well,
that's a great idea. Have a tribunal. Yeah, fuck it. Firing squads, And by the way, these are the people who are telling you that because of Joe Biden, the country is becoming a banana republic. Meanwhile, they're literally joking about gathering people and just having a quick trial, and then murdering people. Fuck you.
That's a good point. Actually, I don't represent
And Bannon's laughing because he knows this is going nowhere.
Prescott, but I represent 4 counties that are rural
With 12 people apiece in them.
counties.
They're rural counties, are they? They're desert. It's fucking Arizona. Bless your heart. To me, I don't know about you, but when I hear rural, I hear woods. Back roads of Wyoming, West Virginia. That's what I think of as rural. You're in the fucking desert, dummy. I don't know what the fuck you're even doing out there besides, what are you, meth farming? What happens?
I don't represent Maricopa County. And
So you don't have standing and the shit will get thrown out?
so my constituents tell me that they're disenfranchised.
Both of them?
Amen.
By what Maricopa County has done. And so I come down here.
You mean the Republicans in Maricopa County?
To represent them. This is for all of Arizona, arguably the entire nation.
Yes. The entire nation of people who live in the middle of nowhere in a desert state, far from industry and other humans.
This is the first time.
That's why she literally represents District 6, has 4 counties in it. Yeah. You know how few states you have to, glom together fucking 4 counties to get enough people to represent?
This is the first time that we have had a venue, a place to lay out all of
the
this.
first time in all these lawsuits, all of Mike Lindell's money, all...
That's not what hey, stupid. She's not talking about that. No, he thinks she means the legal cases. No, she means this fucking Talking Points USA gathering, dum-dum. She thinks this is somehow legally binding.
All the effort, all of President Trump, even the RNC, everything. This is the first time we're going to adjudicate it in an evidentiary actual trial where you're putting forth the evidence.
The evidence. And you know what's going to happen? Fuck all. That's what. Congratulations on wasting everyone's time and money again. By the way, honest to God, most of us are expecting that Katie Hobbs will end up with more votes after this is over than she had before it started, because if passed as prologue, that's what happened with Biden every time they looked.
And now the second point,
the second point, after the machines in general and your 4 counties.
asked for 3 main points.
You only got 2. 8 of the 10 got thrown out.
And the second point is chain of custody. That is what has been so flawed.
It's just flawed. It has to be.
Chain of custody.
That's how the other side votes, is drop boxes and showing up and voting early. That's a flaw. They shouldn't be allowed to do that.
And you talk about Runback, this third party.
I do. I talk about Runback. Who?
Provider. And now there's possible problem with the individual who was selected at the Arizona House to be the House Speaker, and his family's relationship with this third-party provider. All of this.
This third-party provider? Does she mean candidate? Good Lord.
This is now coming out.
I don't even know what you've even said. I mean, understand, like, he's just as confused as we are. He's like, we were all excited, and then you fucked up the whole thing by saying a bunch of gibberish in a row. Look at them. None of them went, amen, because they don't know what the shit she just said.
All of this is important also with the confluence of timing of the Twitter files.
Elon Musk took over Twitter before the midterms, stupid. That didn't help. What do you think? The Hunter Biden laptop story coming back around was somehow going to help you guys win, that Carrie Lake win the fucking governorship of Arizona? Who gives a fuck?
I'm a woman of faith.
Yes, you have faith in Donald Trump and in apparently Aquavelva.
And I think all of this has come together at an auspicious point in time.
Yes, yeah, great. She's one of these Mike Pillow assholes who's like, things have never been better because they're so terrible. That's what all of us are just hoping for, horrible, horrible crises that throw our lie in our fucking face so that we know that things, there's nowhere to go but up, and that's hopeful, isn't it? I'm dying inside.
Where all of this is being laid bare.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Political nudity. That's what God wants. Jesus. Yes! It's bad, and that means it's good? I love this woman. Jesus.
During Advent also.
Advent, yes.
Why, let me ask you, why was the, which I thought was one of the most outrageous, with chain of custody, the intentionality,
and the rise of the machines.
And the ballots, but
and Skynet.
I thought the other one that I was disappointed in is the signature verification, and particularly the use of artificial intelligence where they didn't even use humans. I mean, they just completely lied, gun-decked. It's all been
gun-decked. Oh, congratulations, kids. I thought this video would be a complete waste of fucking time, but we have a brand new military jargon sighting from Steve Tip of the Spear, armor-piercing shell, signal not noise, asshole Bannon.
False. Why do you think the judge didn't put that forward too?
Well, that's
because that's how all your verification shit works. Because even your signature, there's nobody at the bank looking at your signature on the checks that you deposit and your driver's license they have on file. You know that, right? That they compare them, and the only time they flag them for human review is if they're way off. And the other thing, too, is who the fuck is going to do 20 years in fucking jail for every vote they forge and get that good at a dozen people's signatures, much less 100,000, you fucking lunatics.
the Mojave case. Also the
Mojave case.
So there's a different case that my colleague.
By the way, we're still on the 2 points of the 3. I can't understand why these people haven't gotten farther with their argument. It's so tight.
Sonny Borelli, who's also the other retired military member of our Arizona Senate, like I am, and they launched a separate.
So the civilians can't be trusted? Thanks for telling us.
Case. I checked in with him. We don't have an update on that yet, but that.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I'm glad you brought it up then.
That case essentially said it's not in
essentially
statute. It's not in the handbook to have artificial intelligence adjudicating these
Yeah, artificial intelligence was not in the Constitution. The Founding Fathers never envisioned people being able to get in an airplane and fly from New York to LA on voting day and vote in their home district and then fly back to New York or the other way around and vote in person, even if they were thousands of miles away. This is bullshit. We need a giant cork at the airports.
Signatures. And you know as well as I do that with artificial intelligence, you can tweak it.
Look at Steve's face. Tweak it. Can we tweak it? Is that what we can do with artificial intelligence? What do we do? Do we dial it down or dial it up? You know what you can do with artificial intelligence? You can raise the standard so high that every signature, no matter how legitimate, even if it was written right there twice, if you signed your driver's license thing and then you signed your ballot the same fucking day, they wouldn't match.
You can tweak it to be very sensitive, or you can tweak it to be very wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is flawed. This is a problem.
Yes, because we want it tweaked so high that anybody who votes early has their shit thrown out. Because they don't check the sign-in sheet when you vote in person. That won't even be adjudicated at any point because you showed up in person. But anybody who votes early or votes by mail, then we could get their votes thrown out. This is unfair that we can't do that.
And we need to get to the bottom of all of this.
You are at the bottom. You're standing next to Steve Bannon. That's the definition of the bottom.
And I'm just telling you, we're not having it anymore. We're done.
Yeah, we're not having. I'm just telling you, I'm sick of stuff, and I'm not going to tack it anymore.
Done. As Kerry said.
As she's going to quote Carrie Lake. As Carrie said, I have not yet begun to fly.
As Kerry said, you're messing.
In Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 7.
Messing with the wrong people.
You're messing with the wrong people. Did she really say that? That's the rallying cry. You're messing with the wrong people. Did she shout this in line at Target when the machine, like the self-checkout was down? You're messing with the wrong people. I'm sorry, are you just quoting road rage at this point?
Is Carrie Lake the governor-elect of Arizona?
Yes.
Elect of Arizona? Is that a county? I'm not familiar.
Is there any doubt in your mind?
Of course not, or they wouldn't be at this stupid. This is not a legitimate poll.
And she will have an even stronger mandate. And she.
No, she won't. She doesn't have a mandate at all.
Told me about a week ago. She.
Oh, a week ago. Well, then nothing's changed since then.
Said, Wendy, when I might have assumed office, had I been elected properly without all this aftermath, maybe we would have had a honeymoon period with everybody. Maybe we would have had a transition time of, let's all get along. No.
Right.
No, that ship sailed, okay? So.
Yeah, so now it's just, I'm going to rule with an iron fist. Now that I lost, fuck these people.
What we're doing now is we're going to, in the Senate and in the House, we're going to legislate. And then we will work with her to get it all done. And
yeah, you guys wrote that down, right? You guys, that she was going to be nice instead of the bizarre maggot QAnon psychopath that she was. She was going to be nice with the other side of the aisle because it was a squeaker. But not anymore.
And people ask me, oh,
do they really?
Senator, will you take a meeting for this or that? I go, no, not until I know who the governor is.
Katie Hobbs is the governor. And by the way, your unwillingness to accept it does not change that fact. And on behalf of all 9 people in the 4 counties that you represent, they are being denied representation on a gubernatorial level.
Amen.
Amen.
By the way, for Carrie Lake, it's the nullification project, just like with Trump, right?
What?
Just like they stole the 2016 election by not letting him have a real term that they weren't.
Not letting him have a real term? Then how was he vacationing all that time if he didn't have a real job? Wasn't he just a professional golfer who was being denied the presidency? The fuck are you talking about? He didn't have 4 years? He would have gotten so much more done if he wasn't such a massive fuck up.
All over him from day one, right? That was Kerry.
Dude, he was golfing all the time. How you cannot, and by the way, Rand, by the way, as president saying, I wouldn't even have time to golf. Obama's golfing all the time. How do you even have time to be golfing if you're the fucking president? I wouldn't even know I don't know which end of a club fucking hits the ball at this point because I'd be so wrapped up in my homework being president. Meanwhile, he's fucking executive time till 11 a.m. He's fucking having chocolate cake with like sycophants at 9 p.m., gacked out of his brain watching recorded episodes of Fox and Friends till 3 o'clock in the morning and then sleeping in the next day.
Carrie Lake, they understood right away what Carrie Lake meant. And here's the...
Yes, she meant to win and she lost. Womp womp.
The reason, if you were out here and following it, election integrity was huge. Don't get me wrong. And she said, I'm going to put forward an 8-part bill, very sophisticated. But her number one program for people in Arizona and for the nation is, she says, as soon as my hand comes off the Bible, and she says, I'll probably be inaugurated at the border, I'm going to declare an invasion of Arizona.
By who? Chip factories? The Taiwanese? Of the 56 some odd billion dollars that happened in the CHIPS Act, Arizona is getting the single biggest slice of it of any state. I've lost count at this point, but I want to say there's 8 or 9 superconductor factories being built or operating already in Arizona.
And she's going to take it to Biden. That's when they made the decision.
Why would she take it? She's the fucking governor of a low populous state. Sorry, you don't get to muscle your way forward. Make your state more attractive where millions of people stampede to live in Arizona and overwhelm them. And they go, oh, we got to deal with Arizona. They've got millions upon millions. Let's see. What's the current? Hold on. I always have to look this shit up. And I know I'm dragging the show on today, but I'm going to miss you guys tomorrow. So there we go. Yeah. Entire state of Arizona. Fewer people than Los Angeles County. I mean, it's, by the way, what? 8 times bigger than Wyoming, for example. Still doesn't even fucking chart in that regard. Here you go. Let's see. Explore more. Let's see where it is in Arizona. Largest population, 14 out of 53. Where is it? Here we go. Arizona. There we go. Right here. This is in its population. There you go. That's the population. By the way, right in there in the middle with a bunch of these other ones. Just all of them basically in shooting zone. Here's Wyoming way down on the tit right there.
Decision, we got to get rid of her, right? This is nothing but bad news right here, right? That she may be even.
By the way, apparently Joe Biden can't finish a sentence and has a lifelong stutter that makes him somehow weak as a president. But anyways, you were saying, Steve Bannon?
Worse than Trump, right?
Better.
Yeah.
Better. Don't say that. Look, that lady just lost. The Asian lady over there just frowned.
For them, it's like we gotta take it out.
Wait, that was the tail end of this clip. Say that again. By the way, she says Carrie Lake better than Trump. No reaction from the crowd, and then Steve Bannon finishes his fucking gibberish sentence, and then they just end the video. Watch this.
And she's going to take it to Biden. That's when they made the decision, we got to get rid of her, right? This is nothing but bad news right here, right?
No, I think you mean the Arizona voters.
She may be even worse than Trump, right?
Better.
Yeah.
Shit.
For them, it's like we gotta take it out.
For them, it's like we gotta take it out. And that's a direct quote. And second only to Rudy Giuliani today, the gibberish award goes to Steve Bannon and Wendy Rogers, who, while Steve Bannon was kind of blathering his, military terminology and stammering his way through assertions and what he thought was kind of like crowd rallying cries about immigrants, he was still, I would like to say, for the record, congratulations, Steve, you were still outdone in the gibberish department by Wendy Rogers, who made zero fucking sense, had a 2-point conversation that she was distinctly, as a former military officer, and I thank her for her service, but since then, I don't know what the fuck she's doing, that she had 2 points that she was going to hit, which became 3, and in the middle of the second one, ran off into some fucking cul-de-sac of gibberish. So, hilarious. This is, congratulations. This is a highlight of this Talking Points USA gathering around the election integrity in Maricopa County, live in Maricopa County. They're in Phoenix or whatever, and paid for almost entirely by Mike Pillow. Yeah, just footing the fucking bill for all of it, which I will be glad to ask him about if he agrees to come on my live stream, which I will be working very hard to make happen. I'm just saying. Anyways, love you guys. I went a little long tonight, but forgive me. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to do my morning show, and then I'm going to hit the road and go to LA, do my stand-up show, and then right after I'm done, get in the car, drive back so I can spend more time with family. And I was long story. My schedule gets so wonky sometimes. But let me tell you from my heart, honestly, that I can't tell you what a joy and privilege it is to perform for a living. As a kid who grew up in Kentucky and made it to Chicago and sort of entered entertainment when I was in my teens and decided I was going to make a lifelong career out of this, and it took 14 years for my effectively big break, in that the ability that I have to continue to perform to this day, not only live, both with my band and Nerd Halen and the Ultimate Jam Night and with the stand-up shows that I do, but also with you guys here in this venue, which I never planned to turn into a thing. I was just like, this'll help cheer people up during the pandemic and the lockdowns and help us all get through it and kind of, see a silver lining and laugh our way through the difficulties. The fact that this turned into a thing and became a regular gathering for like-minded and wonderful folks such as yourself, I got to tell you, I find it overwhelmingly beautiful. I do. Those of you that know how emotional I can get know that I am often panicked by the beauty of life, even at its most difficult. And I just want to thank you. Flat out. I just appreciate it. That's all. That's it. That's all I'm saying. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Philip will be joining us for 1 hour. I'll be up early tomorrow. My regular show, it'll be a regular 9 a.m. show for me. And then we're going to do an hour and then piss off, because I may even do it an hour earlier, depending on when he's available, because I know he's doing Tom Hartman's show tomorrow instead of Thursday. So I don't want to, overlap that and make sure that he's got the time. So you don't have to watch it live if you're regularly watching it at other times. It'll stay up after we're done. But anyways, much love to you guys. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Thank you so much.